We have it over here by the old office on the table. Thank you. I think we found the owner.
Big dog exhibitors. After you have shown your coat, when you are done, you may go ahead and leave. Please do it in an orderly manner, and let's be respectful to everyone that is still showing. If you're going to floor your animal, you can take it to the white trailer over here. We'll have somebody over there to check you in. But as soon as you're through showing today, you can load up and go. Thank you. Need your go to here for class one.
Just ask him what he wants you to do.
today with the Market Show is Mr. Connor Newsom. He is a livestock judge team coach at South Plains College, Delaware. Connor was awarded the 2019 National Collegiate Livestock Judging Team Coach of the Year. He's an undergraduate at Secondary University, has a master's in Texas Tech. Connor's been involved in the livestock business for years. He loves this industry, he loves helping the industry. Let's give Connor a big blessing today.
This is nice. Walk them over yeah, just walk through the white trailer.
Take this time to thank Connor Newsom for bringing his livestock judging team with him today. They're helping us in the ring. They'll be helping us out throughout the barn today. We appreciate that. Let's give them a round of applause for bringing those kids out with us and experience in the ring as well.
You're smart. It makes you think you're smart.
This will be your first call for Class 2 meat goats. You go ahead and start bringing your Class 2 meat goats to the staging area.
Cold water. Going all the way, but yeah. Cotton candy.
Last 2 meters, we're bringing your animals up to the stadium area. This will be the last ball. Last 2 marks goes for Gillespie.
No, it's not. I'm good, thank you. Does it taste like rainbow?
First of all, before we start, I just wanted to say thank you to the county for having me out here today and to work with your young kids first and foremost. But more importantly, as we go through this, the start of the year, just shows my team's able to come with me. We're able to go compete next week up in Oklahoma City for our first contest of the year at the college level. So I think we just all need to remember that and be patient, not only with our county stock shows, our local stock shows, but certainly with our major stock shows. I know there's a lot of things that are frustrating, but we just need to remember that this isn't always guaranteed. But I'm really looking forward to working through the livestock today, but more importantly, working with you other kids. And so as we get into this first class here, I think one thing we need to think about in terms of just looking at future, there's a lot of differences in maturity patterns as we get into the first division or first class. And so I think that does come into account, and that's certainly important. And you have to remember that even though we're at the county stock show, that these goats do have other endpoints and other goals and where they're headed. I think it's real close up top. And I'll be the first to admit that I'm not the biggest fan of a total red goat in terms of just color pattern, but as we get our hands on him today, there's no question that's the best handling one. He's the roundest of the turn to his body shape. As you get underneath that goat, he's still really good in terms of the structure. One that just really proportions and balances nicely. Young lady does a phenomenal job getting presented out here. But as important as anything, you get your hands on him right there behind his shoulder. He's just a little bigger in his rack shape. He becomes stouter in terms of his pin set, and he drops that muscle just a little deeper into his hock. And so as we get those goats on the move, there's a pair that surfaced up for me that were better in terms of their structural build. They were better in terms of their balance. I thought the red goat just outhandled the one in second in terms of his handle quality and his expression and shape. Now there's an extremely well-built one that comes next. Young lady has the prettier one of the group, flat shouldered, long in terms of his hip design. A goat that's got some substance and some bone underneath it.
Get to that three-quarter view, we'd probably just like to see him have a little better turn to his forerib and his body shape. We'd like to see him just drop that muscle a little deeper right there into his hock. And I think as you get right behind them animals, even though the goat in second's got a little more stretch and extension, he's not nearly as powerful and bold in terms of his rib cage. Painted up goat that comes next, in terms of presentation, clip job, phenomenal. This one draws you in. Young lady does a great job in terms of this one getting around the ring and being athletic. As we go to the base of that one's foot, he's just not nearly as stout as our top pair. We'd like to make him just a little burlier in terms of his forearm. We'd maybe like to open him up in that chest floor. I think that would help him be a little rounder in his body shape as he opens out of his sternum. But a fresh one that's done a nice job in terms of getting him ready for the county show, like that one's look a whole lot. You know, from the outside, the muscle goat comes fourth. There's no question. He's got all the ESTs. He's the stoutest bone. He's the biggest ribbed, the widest constructed. When we put more into him, though, this guy just gets a little more shoulder. He gets a little more breastbone. He gets a little more chest plate. And as we handle him right over his loin edge, he's just stressing up just a little bit and a little more wrinkled up there over his loin, and we like to freshen that up just a touch more. But a wide constructed one to help you out, young man, too. If you just get maybe a 30% drive instead of a 60% drive on him, I think that'd help his loin edge come together for him just a little better. A goat that just is behind in fifth, and not from a quality standpoint, because I think a goat that's got some nice things about him. He's moderate in his build. He's square in terms of his functional foundation. He's got some turn. He's got some shape and muscle. He just doesn't have enough gas in the tank out here to kind of run with these four up ahead of him. Nice weather, though, to go ahead and round out the top five. Looking forward to working with the kids today, guys. Let's give this first group a big round of applause as they head back to the ring.
We will be holding the top two in the first class of each division for our champion drive. We have two classes in each division. We're excusing our first class right now, and our second class is ready to go. Our placings in class one. In first place, we had Zoe Maurer. Second, Zoe Maurer. Third, had Grayson Fanning. Fourth, Logan Decker. Fifth, we had Wyatt Peters. And sixth, Taylor Cox. Seventh was Danielle Embry. Eighth was Macy Taylor. Ninth, Caleb Brooks. And in 10th place was Wyatt Schusow.
Attention in the barn. If you were a stock show scholarship recipient this year, I need you to, and you have not signed up for your the work to sale, I need you to do so before you leave the show. Thank you.
Just a reminder on the meat goats, if you want to floor your animal after you finish showing, take it to the white gooseneck over here on the west end of the barn, and you are excused after your exhibitor is through showing. Please exit in an orderly manner if you want to leave early when you're done, and we'll make this go as smoothly as possible. This will be your first call for Class 3 meat goats. If you've got a goat in Class 3, you can start getting them up to the staging area.
All right.
I think really competitive top 2, 3 even that are in contention to win the second class of our first division. The pair up top is close. I think because you got animals that are built with athleticism and function, but they're also got the right type of muscle and carcass characteristics that we're after from a handling standpoint primarily. But with that, in terms of just their skeletal width and their base, those animals are able to support more muscle to the top side of their skeleton. The goat that wins, though, is just a little more my type today. He's a little prettier. He's a little better built in terms of his shoulder shape and the way it fits back into his body. And if you look at him in particular on the move, he holds his vertebrae and his spine with a little bit more strength and squareness and stability when those goats go ahead and take the lap. A slight difference, but an advantage that hits me just a little bit harder today. The goat in second, you get that chest shot. He's super impressive. Big forearm, stout skull, wide constructed. A little shorter body type of an animal, but that really helps him proportion and balance also. A goat that's going to be easy to manage through his weight division and one that's going to be very competitive on down the road. A nice pair to go ahead and have there in the top. The black-headed goat's one that comes into third. Probably didn't hit me as strong in the first impression when he walked in the ring because he's a little shorter in his hip length. He's maybe just a little more moderate, a little quicker in his maturity pattern. But guys, you get your hands on him, he's as impressive as anything out there. Big racked, wide loin, a ton of stability and stoutness. One that just doesn't put it together as well as the top pair, but you've got to respect the handle quality. Now, the goat in fourth is one that's totally different than the animal that sits in third. This is probably the latest maturing animal of the entire set. He's the longest necked. He's got as much look and attractiveness from the profile as we've seen. As we put him in motion, he just gets a little straighter in terms of his hock. We'd like to see that work with more athleticism. And on top of that, he just doesn't come together as well right there in the bottom side of his flank. He's just a little harder made in terms of his rib shape respect, and so we've got to see him come a little bit more with flesh, and I think he becomes more competitive. That was a really, really tight pair between third and fourth. Fifth place goat mimics a lot of things of the goat in second. Wide constructed, stout bone, bold ribbed, really, really big in terms of his loin edge. As we get your hands on him, though, that's the softest handling one, and not to degrade him that he's real soft, but he is the softest handling of the top 5. We've got to trim him back and just make him just a little harder in terms of his shape, and I think he moves up a spot or two because I really like the type of build and fundamental skeleton he comes with. A nice class here in 2. Let's give all the kids a big round of applause as they exit the ring.
We would like to announce the winners for the Turkey Hen Division. First place, Kinley Cott. Second place, Ava Yensky. Third place, Holt Geisweit. Fourth, Christopher Kramer. Fifth, Trapper Kramer. Sixth, Mason Kanazy. Seventh, Dawson Ronslaben. Eighth, Alexandra Sioni. 9th, Annabella Sioni. 10th, Travis Yensky. 11th, Tucker Geisweit. 12th, Ellis Betcher. 13th, Riley Rizzo. 14th, Luke Rizzo. 15th, Garrison Betcher. 16th, Riley Schmidt. 17th, Paxton Schmidt. 18th, Jake Staling. Congratulations. Put your hands together for the Turkey Hen Division.
Meat goats. If you have a goat in class 3, bring them up. We need Taylor and Toch, Carter Wood, and Cash Wood. Bring your goats up to the staging area. We're now judging for our Division 1 champion and reserve meat goats.
A really, really nice set here in the first division. Not going to go down and just break them apart. Again, as we've done that thoroughly, I thought, and within the respective divisions. Would like to see these come back out in comparison of the divisions that we're going to have later on the day. Primarily, let's give all 4 individuals a big round of applause back here. They're working hard out here. A little chilly this morning. Now select your champion and your reserve.
sir. Your Division I champion goes to Kinsey Key, and your reserve champion goes to Brody Rader. Our placings in Class 2 market goats. In 9th place was Tanner James. 8th was Macy Taylor. 7th, Dylan Michael. 8th, Macy Taylor. I'm sorry. Going to 6th place was Marley Mickles. In 5th place was Rhodey Holmes. 4th was Grayson Fanning. 3rd, Marley Mickle. And 2nd, Brody Rader, and our class winner was Kinsey Key. This will be your first call for Class 4 market goats. If you've got a goat in Class 4, bring them to the holding area. I'd like to recognize our donors for our Division I champions. For our champion award, we had Fredericksburg Veterinary Center. And our Division I reserve champion was donated by Logan and Colleen Ketron. Let's give them a round of applause for supporting our youth. If you have a goat in Class 4, bring them on up to the staging area. Mason Pressler, you need to bring your goat to the staging area for Class 4. Mason Pressler.
As we get into the first class of our second division, I think an extremely well-presented group of the top five. Great showmanship to commend these exhibitors. But foremost, I think you've got a really, really tight set, and I think it gets really, really close, and you've got to be on your A game to get into the first or second or even third. Young lady that wins the class, that one's just the best built. You got some power in the top five, but that one puts it together easily the best. Maybe not the prettiest animal, but if we're talking about how the skeleton's organized, that one's shoulders neat, that one's chest is right, and still comes back bold in terms of his rack shape. And as we take him to the ground, that one's the most consistent and fundamental in terms of his skeletal width and how he matches it to the top side of his rib cage and over his rack and his loin. Now, he's probably not the hardest touching. I will criticize him there. But that one's still got plenty of muscle to offset that cover, and I think it makes him blend just a little bit smoother. So a nice one there to win. The goat in second, stout bone, big forearm, great presentation, love the chest width. As we study him to the top side of his hip there and where his tail sets, he's just a little steeper in the angle there. We'd like to make him just a little more explosive in his pin set. And as we get our hands on him, he's got mass. We'd just like to see a little bit more shape and delineation. But a goat that's certainly got a lot of quality to him. The muscle goat comes in third. That one has got as much as anything if you're just going to butt cut him. He's stout boned, wide constructed, big chested, and stout in his skull. With that, we put a little more feature in them. They probably just aren't as smooth and as pretty sometimes, and we'd like to fix him there. But a goat that's got ultimate power. One that's got more future comes into fourth. This one's front end quality runs with anything that we've seen today. He's as tall front end and as clean there through his chest floor and as good looking as anything we've seen. With that, he just doesn't come with as much substance, much rib cage, and as much hip, and so we'd like to make him just a little more progressive in terms of his width. Goat that comes into fifth, great handle quality, big rack shape, trim over his forerib, like this one in terms of his loin edge. As we put him in motion of the top five, he's the most restricted. We just need to make him a little more athletic in his step and just a little bit more comfortable as he takes to the shavings. That's a really nice set, guys. Let's give these kids a big round of applause as we bring in four.
Our placings for Class 3 meat goats: in ninth place, we had Tanner James. Eighth, Maddie Kate Mabry. Seventh, Lily Hickman. Sixth is Justine Nimitz. Fifth, Cash Wood. Fourth, Carter Wood. Third was Trey Toch. Second was Sydney Gosquat. And our first place winner, Class 3, was Taylin Toch. We're now judging Class 4. Just want to remind meat goat exhibitors that when you're done showing, if you want to floor your animal, you can take it to the white gooseneck on the west end of the barn. And after you're done, you may go ahead and load up and leave. Thank you.
This is first call for Class 5 meat goats. First call for Class 5 meat goats. Also, just want to let you know the last one to check in will lead them in the ring. So, little incentive to get up here earlier. If you have somebody at home that needs to watch or wants to watch, you can go to fbg.live and they can pull up the show. We have the turkey show, and we have the goat show this morning, followed by the lamb show. Tomorrow, the cattle and the pig show. And then we'll also have the sale, and that's how we want the exhibitors to watch that so they can know when they need to come up, because it's not going to be played on the radio this year. So fbg.live, we want to thank Paige and his crew for being here today and live streaming the event.
Top of Division 2 brings different variety. I think as you look through the top 5, maybe some different maturity patterns and growth curves. Throw a kink and kind of where the goat sits or how they fit into a class. Young lady's goat that wins is awesome touching, big stout foot underneath him, and then's got a really nice balance look. Is that one the longest neck or the coolest build or, maybe just the most attractive in his pin bone? I wouldn't say so, but I'd say that one's got as much fundamental basics as we're looking for. And in terms of looking for the right rib cage, that one's easily the roundest in his body shape. Nice job of that young lady in the presentation of our class 1 and 4. Class goat and 2 here, different speed. That one's tall fronted, long necked, runs uphill, like the chest floor, like the shoulder shape that he sets in from the profile. That one's great touch and big loined and really trim. I think as we lay another just a bit of cover on him, he's going to be a little smoother in terms of his outline. He just doesn't have the substance or the feature or the bone that our class winner does, and that's why he sits in second. Third place goat. Young man's done a great job getting this one presented. He's big in his rib cage. He's wide constructed. More of a moderate type of an animal. Really easy type of one probably to feed. We need to tune that one back just a bit. Maybe, in terms of just his athleticism, we'd like to trim him up and make him just a little later in his maturity pattern. So I think he catches your eye because he's bold and he's burly, but we've got to make him just a little bit better in terms of his shape and his outline. Young lady brings 1 and 4 that's got a neat shape to its neck. I think that one's got a good forearm in it. Really good in terms of the bottom term of its rib cage. As we get right on top of that one, maybe just not as big and standing in terms of his rack shape, as you read the rear pastern and the hind leg and the hock and where it goes to the ground, we just need to make that a little bit squarer, and I think that that one would move up just a spot or two. A young lady comes into fifth, a trim, high cut ability one that's got a neat look, really flat shoulder in the way it sits into its rib cage. In this class here in this respected division just doesn't come with enough burliness and power to go ahead and get into the top 4. But a nice job of presentation. These kids done a great job. They're working hard. Let's all give them a big round of applause around ringside.
Our placings for Class 4 market goats. In 9th, we had Camden Cantwell. 8th, Mason Pressler. 7th, Danielle Embry. 6th, Jordan Cox. 5th, Evelyn Cox. 4th, Taylor Cox. 3rd, Connor Sims. 2nd was Quentin Cox. And our first place winner in Class 4 was Kendall Staling. We're now showing for our Division II champion and reserves.
A really nice set here in 4, and I'd say a tougher decision. I compliment the people behind these projects with these young kids because making my job tough is what y'all are supposed to do. And so I'm not going to break them down individually. I'll take one last look. More importantly, like I said in the last division, let's give them a big round of applause because these 4 make it really hard on me, and they're a really nice set.
And your Division II champion goes to Taylin Toch, and your reserve champion is Kendall Staling. And our Division II champion award was donated by Harper Pump Service, And your reserve champion award was donated by Lockheed Feed and General Store. Entering the ring now is Class 5 Market Goats.
First call for Class 6 meat goats. First call, Class 6. Remember, last one up here has to lead them in the ring. Marty Walker, I know you're in the ring, but your parents need to get your goat up here for the next class.
Another nice class, competitive for sure. I think that, looking where they're at, age-wise and weight, the goat that wins here for me, I think, is maybe one of the most alert, is a good word choice to use on him in just terms of his head carriage, in terms of the way he's built up front. Very, very, very neat, very unique in terms of that aspect because he's got good chest width, and he's still really round in terms of his body shape. To have that look, you get your hands on him, then he's just really, really good in terms of his touch. He complements that with great shape. Just a cool built one, high quality with that. One that's really, really attractive on the move. Maybe one of the best we've seen all day on that regard. Goat in second, fundamental is a great word. I don't like to use complete because that doesn't give him credit enough. But just no holes in this guy. And he's square built, he's got a good rib cage, he's got the right type of muscle. Maybe just not perfect or elite or the best in every regard, but he's not messed up. And I think that's important to find in our livestock because he's got great function, he's got great structure, and I think that gets him into the second place spot. Primarily, he's got a big advantage in bone, though. And not that I'm sorting off that, but we have to have substance that matches our muscle shape, and the goat in third just needs to be a little stouter there in his foot because he's the biggest in his rack shape, probably the widest constructed in the entire group, and I love those things, but we've just got to make him balance a little better because he's just a touch frailer, and I'm not going to call him frail, but compared to our top pair, he's just not as intensified in terms of his feature or his bone at the ground, but you've got to respect a big racked one that's wide constructed like that. And fourth, I tell you, this guy, if we put him on the move or let him loose on the chain, I like that he stays really strong in his top line and really loose in terms of his structure. When we get him on the pose here, we need to back him up a little bit. He's getting a little weak right there behind his shoulder. So there's two different viewpoints you get on this animal. Talking positively, though, he's got good angles to his skeleton. His neck still comes really high off the top side of his scapula and shoulder. As we get our hands on him, that's probably the softest touching one, though, still of the group. And so we've got to make him just a little harder and trimmer in that touch, and I think he moves up a spot or two. The black-headed goat does have that advantage, though. He is a trim, high-cut ability one that's really good in his outline and has great composition. As we study him through his outer stifle and his twist and the top side of his tail set and where he puts that together, we need him just to drop a little more muscle, and I think that that would help him balance up and look like he's burly enough in this group, because he just looks a little lighter weight, and maybe that division before would have helped him in his regard of competition. But compliments to these exhibitors, guys. Another great class and a good set. Let's give them a round of applause as they exit the ring.
Class 5 placings. In 9th place, we had Gavin Mabry. 8th, Allison Lindig. 7th, Marty Walker. 6th was Cutter Wolf. 5, Brenda Wolf. And 4th, we had Cash Wood. 3rd was Nicole Toch. 2nd, Eli Geistwaite. And your class winner was Addison Hahn. We will now bring in Class 6. Market goat exhibitors, just a reminder, if you want to floor your animal after it is shown, you can take it to the white gooseneck on the west end of the barn and load it up as soon as you're done. This will be your first call for Class 7 market goats. If you got a goat in Class 7, bring them up. Class 7 market goats, bring them to the staging area. Last one up will be the first one in the ring, so get them up here.
Really good set of showmen I'll compliment on this class. First off, great livestock along with that, but a great set that are getting them presented really well. Young lady that wins the class. I think if you're going to combine bone and feature with some look, maybe you've done a better job of it, than this goat in second. As we look at him up front, he's actually really impressive in that chest width. Really good in terms of his rib cage. You get on top of him, he's got a big back in him. Maybe one that's just not as pretty or as well assembled in his hip length and his tail set, and then the way his hind leg maybe takes to the surface at times. But I think the front 3/4 of that animal are super impressive. I like that one just from a fundamental standpoint once again. Goat that comes in second, he's not 12 o'clock today. He's got more future to him because of his lateness and maturity, his length of neck, his length of hip. I like this one's athleticism. I like him on the move. He's just not as show ready today to go ahead and compete with their class winner. And I'd like to also make him stouter there in his forearm. I'd like to make him just a little bigger in the circumference of his foot. But if you get your hands on him, he's still got a great shape and a great look. That's a nice pair to lead Class 6. As we get into 3, a type of goat that's found himself here for me a lot today. He's got all the muscle you want. Probably the biggest stifle, probably the biggest racked. Maybe as wide constructed and stout. We've just got to take that muscle and lay it on the skeleton in a prettier fashion. Maybe just a little deeper in his chest. He's not as neat and just smooth and dialed in right there, or wedge-shaped in the shoulder, but one you really have to respect in the regard of carcass characteristics. Kind of spotted or dapple-hided wether that comes next into 4th. Giving the young lady a little more trouble as we get into the late round of the class. is one that's got as much spread to the top side of his rack and loin as anything. He's got some openness to his skeleton. As we study the base of his chest in relation to his flank, I think that he needs to become a little bit smoother and drop back into that flank because he wants to cut up just a bit. I think that's just something that's probably hindered him in terms of maturity. But more importantly, we've got to realize that he needs this to be a little better in terms of his hind leg set. A goat that comes into fifth, I really like the shape. I like the look of this one. This one posed up, when he gets him on the drive, really will draw your eye in. He brings a lot of attention from a look standpoint. When we put him on the move, he wants to get too relaxed in terms of his spine. He wants to get a little bit weak in terms of his pastern, and the way he utilizes his hind leg, we'd just like to make him a bit square. A nice set here in six. We'll bring those back for an overall. Let's give all those kids another big round of applause as they exit the ring.
In your placings for Class 6 meat goats, in 10th place we had Gabriella Sander. In 9th was Holt Gostwat. 8th was Michael Morin. 7th, Dylan Mickle. 6th was Brody Fiddler. In 5th, we had Logan Decker. 4th, Marty Walker. 3rd was Tucker Fleming. 2nd was Rhodey Holmes, and your class winner was Kenzie Key. We will now judge our Division III market goats for champion and reserve. Our Division III champion awards, the champion of Division III will be awarded by Fritz & Sons Construction, and your reserve champion was donated by Betty Ronslaben and Shawn and Christy Dams.
As we get our Division III out here, the consistency of quality has stayed. I think the goats in each division are going to be fun to bring back out to look through because each division's really represented themselves great. Once again, I'm not going to break them down. We've done that in their respective divisions. Let's give them a big round of applause, and I'll select your champion and reserve in Division III.
And your Division III champion market goat goes to Addison Hahn, and your reserve champion, Eli Gostwat. Congratulations. If you have a goat in Class 8, you can bring them to the staging area. Bring them on up.
Okay, attention in the poultry barn. If the reserve Tom and reserve hen will come get your picture taking at the backdrop, we'd appreciate it. Thank you. Attention in show barn, just to let y'all know that the show today and tomorrow and the sale are both being simulcast. It's at fbg.live. So if you have any parents or friends or family that like to watch at home, they can sure log on to that and watch the shows. They have two links. They have one for the poultry ring and then one for the ring here where the meat goats are at. Thank you.
Class 7 brings the hardest decision of the day. And even in the top 3, I think you've got to really realize the quality you've got and just the closeness. Some goats that are getting a little more bark on them. Maturity's looking closer to 12 o'clock. Maybe not there perfectly. Probably don't want to be. Totally different types. But the one that wins to just be that massive and still that functional and that sound, I think he does just a great job of. Maybe he's not the tallest fronted. The goat in second's probably a little prettier, maybe a little better out of his hip, but it's just hard to disregard that much power and still putting it together in a proportional, balanced image. I mean, big rack, massive and stout boned, and still handles it. I think that's a harder combination to put together. The goat that comes in second, awesome rib cage, super youthful, really arrogant is a good word to describe him. So tall fronted in the way he shoots his neck off the top side of his shoulder. His loin's not perfect today. He's probably just doesn't hook up right there as big and square as our class winner. He's got a little bit of a hop in his step off his rear leg. I don't know if he fought an injury or maybe it's just a structure dilemma. And not that he's unsound, but he just handles it just a little bit awkward there when he goes. But I do like how tall fronted and how loose he is in terms of just his neck when he is on the move. A really high quality one as well. A close decision up top. Third comes with a ton of quality. He just ran out of shape and power and handle quality compared to the top 2 to go ahead and get up there. I like that one's build and I like his skeleton and look. We'd like to drop his rib cage just a bit. I think that would give him a more balanced image. The 4th place kind of painted up, spot-footed goat that came in the ring. Probably had as much of a first impression to me as anything. Freshly presented, great clip job, awesome feet and legs and structure on this guy. He probably draws me in a little better on the move versus when we get him posed up. When you're driving him, maybe try to work on getting his top down just a little bit because he wants to kind of roach up on you and get a knot in his back. And I think that would help him in terms of his image and his profile. Primarily, that's not what gets him beat. He needs to be bigger in his rack shape compared to the heat that we have in front of him. But a really nice one. Young lady's doing a really solid job there in 4th. A young man comes in 5th with the one that's got big shape. I like that one's width. I like that one's bone. Probably the stoutest sculled one, or one of the stoutest sculled ones we've seen today. We got to fix his rear feet. We got to pick his chest floor up a little bit and give him a cooler look in this group. But I think he really rounds out the top 5 with a lot of muscle. A nice set once again, guys. Let's give these kiddos a big round of applause as they exit the ring.
In your places for Class 7, in 10th place, we had Norris Usal. 9th, Gage Lang. 8th, Addison Shusal. 7th, Blair Marshall. 6th, Grayson Crenwelge. And 5th, Tucker Fleming. 4th, Kelsey Staling. 3rd, Gage Lane. 2nd, Taylin Toch. And our class winner with Brittany Bowers. We'll now bring in our Class 8. This will be your first call for Class 9 market goats. If you've got a goat in Class 9, you can head on up to the staging area.
I think we start to see differences, once again, as we see in the lighter divisions, you see some of those differences at a bigger range as we get into more maturity starting to hit, on goats, as hard as anything, keeping them right through their feeding period and lifetime. Once they hit that point, really hard to manage them. A goat that stays youthful in larger classes, like our class winner here, has great lead-off quality, awesome skeleton, awesome look. He's a little more vertical off both ends of his skeleton, and when I say that, I mean he's straighter up there in his shoulder, but that's what makes him have a little more height. He's got a little more daylight underneath him, and the way he puts it together with that much shape is a really unique combination. His tail's got a little bend to it, there, and it kind of throws off just a little bit, and that's an aesthetic thing, but I certainly love this one's look, and I really, really like him in terms of the way he touches down his back. Young lady brings one that's super fresh in second, really round in the turn to that body shape. I like the projection to his upper rib because that facilitates for a big-time handle. As we start to take him to the base of his skeleton, though, probably just not as stout, maybe not as flexible, and maybe just not as athletic as our class winner. But you really have to respect the fresh ones when you're starting to get into larger classes. Spot back goat's proportional. Really consistent in his handle, I think a goat that's got a decent type of structure under him, we've just got to make his feet bigger. And I hate saying that, but we've got to make them match these days, and it's something that's not an option. You've got to have enough stoutness to match that muscle up top, or we're not going to proportion and balance correctly. And so one that I like for a lot of things, but we've got to be just a little bit fuzzier down low. Goat that comes into fourth, I'm not a fan of his chest floor, but if you get past that, he's as big in his rib cage as anything, and then you get your hands on him. He's got great spread, great width, and he still handles it structurally. I think if you relaxed on him a little bit, that would probably help him in terms of his chest floor and how he's driving that forward as well. But a power goat in 4. Black-headed goat has got a glitch in his hind leg that we've got to fix. If he didn't have that extra set to his hock, the front 3/4 of that goat are as sheepy as you can find in terms of being tall-fronted, shallow-chested, good in his rib cage, and hard touching. We've just got to make him a little more secure and give him more stability to his hind leg. A nice class winner in 8 here. A nice set once again. Let's give all these kids a big round of applause as they exit the ring.
Placings in Class 8. In 8th place, we had Haley Hoffman. 7th, Levi Hickman. 6th, Levi Harrison. In 5th place was Cannon Dans. 4th was Hagen Fleming. 3rd, we had Quentin Cox. 2nd was Carter Wood, and our class winner was Britley Bowers. We're now judging for our Division 4 champion. Our Division 4 champion award was donated by Ralph and Karen Rohde, and our reserve champion was donated by Fritz and Sons Construction.
Once again, commend the people behind the projects as much as the people in the ring because there's a lot of really, really nice weathers that are coming through, and looking forward to the next division. Kids are doing a great job once again. I think maybe of one of the tougher division calls that I've had to make today between all 4. It's not just between 1 or 2. But let's go ahead and commend these exhibitors and give them a big round of applause ringside, and I'll pick you another champion in reserve of Division 4.
And your champion in Division 4 was Britley Bowers, and your reserve champion was also Britley Bowers. Congratulations. We'll now bring in Class 9. Class 10 market goats, bring them to the holding area. Class 10 market goats, bring them up. Want to remind you market goat exhibitors, if you want to floor your animal, there's a white gooseneck on the west end of the barn. You can take it over there and check it in anytime. Class 10 market goats, let's get them up here. Last one in is going to have to be first in the ring, so bring them up.
I think really another nice class as we get towards the end. A really, really close pair. I think there's a dilemma or a difference in structure. I think the class winner's got way more angle and set built into his front shoulder and knee as we get on top of them. They're both massive. I think the goat that wins is one that's just got a little bit more base to him in terms of stoutness. Maybe not as neat in terms of his rib cage, the class winner isn't, but he's still really progressive in his width. Guy's really, really fresh. The one that hit me the hardest was the goat in second. This is probably the absolute heaviest muscled animal we've seen today in terms of rack shape, stifle, depth of twist, skeletal width, and just actual stoutness to his skull. I don't know if he's fighting an injury. The knee up front bothers me just a little bit. We got to set that back and make him just a little square in terms of his structure there. He wants to kind of drive that hind leg inside of him, and I want to make his width consistency from the top of his hip to the ground a little better and a little more parallel, and versus versus him and kind of how he turns that hock in. But that's being really picky on a nice goat that's powerful and very, very elite in terms of his rib cage. A nice pair to lead us off in this class. As we get down in here to 3, I think an animal that's just part for part, super complete. Like I said before, a word that I don't like to use to describe livestock, but there's no question this guy's got a good foundation to him, a good turn to his rib. You get your hands on him, just not as dialed in terms of his shape and the roll to his back compared to the ones that we have right in front of him. Dip-tailed, black-headed wether here next is one that at the pose has got a cool look, very up-fronted, very neat in his chest floor, a goat that's got great shape. As we get to the front side of him, or if we catch him off to that 3/4 rear shot, a goat that maybe just needs to come with more spread comparatively. I think he's got great youthfulness. If we lay just a little bit more cover on him too, though, I think that he smoothens up and looks a little bulkier for his weight range. And something that's important, you've got to fit. He looks just a little taller and ganglier out here, and so I like a lot of things about him. We just got to mass him up a bit. Painted up one comes next. Good turn to his rib. Goat that's probably got a little more drop to his flank than the one in front of him. I like his loin depth. One that we've got to change through the front third of his body. His chest neck conjunction just isn't as pretty as the wethers are put together as well as the ones right ahead of him. A nice one though still to round out 5. Let's give all them kids a big round of applause.
Your placings for Class 9. In 9th place, we had Briley Berardi. 8th, Holt Geistwat. 7th, Justine Nimitz. 6th, Shay Wolf. In 5th place, we had Nicole Toch. 4th was Colton Wolf. 3rd, Daniel Rabb. 2nd, Riley Rader. And our class winner went to Sydney Geistwat. Congratulations. We'll now judge Class 10, and then we'll have your Division 5 drive.
announce them in the show barn. If you are not able to make the sale and you're going to have a substitute person in place of you for the sale, you need to fill out some information. So we have some contact information to call that person during the sale. Thank you.
All right, in the goat barn, we are judging our last class. So if you had a champion in reserve in one of the weight divisions, you need to be getting those animals ready and working your way up to the ring. We'll make a call for them just here in a second. We have the heavyweight drive. If you have a fine wool, lightweight, you better think about getting them ready if you need to wash them.
Immediately following the goat show, if you had a division champion or reserve, you will need to come to the backdrop for photos. And the grand and reserve champion of the show will be getting drug tested. You can go ahead and start bringing your division champion and reserves to the holding area, and we'll do the championship drive right after the Division 5 drive. I'll remind you once again, if you have a floor animal, you can take it to the White Gooseneck on the west end of the barn. They're accepting them now.
So just an update on the sheep show. We're finishing the last class of goats. And then we have a heavyweight champion drive, which will take a few seconds. Then we'll have our grand drive overall. Probably take just a little bit longer. And then we're going to take maybe a 5-10 minute break, and we're going to roll right into the sheep show. So if you've got fine wools and you need to get them washed, I'd be in the wash rack.
Awesome class to go ahead and finish up the goat show today. I think if you want to talk about lead-off quality or just skeletal organization, our last class of the day, our winner here, maybe does as good of a job as we've seen. I think in terms of just skeletal correctness, with the right type of muscle on his stretch, on the way it stretches on his skeleton, he just does a great job. Awesome looking, white constructed, yet good structured, and still as athletic as we've seen. Wish his tail was working a little better for him, but at the same time, that goat's got a good look. Goat comes in second, just a real powerhouse. I mean, this one's bold made, big chested, white constructed. Maybe not as just neat in the base of his neck shape there. Maybe not as elevated as our class winner. I think that those on down the road should probably be in different classes and divisions, though. I love the power. I love the substance of the goat in second, just not as unique as our class winner. Kind of tan-headed goat that comes into third, has got a good skeleton. He's short-shouldered. He's pretty good structured. He's big-backed, really, really wide across his loin. He's just not as fresh in his presentation. He's a little stressed. He's a little cold, a little wrinkled up this morning. And so that probably dials him back down into third. But I really think there's a lot of good about that goat. And so going on down the road, get that fixed, I think that we've got a better, decision to make in 2 and 3. 4 has got as much lean cut ability and trimness in the class. Just a real high-yielding animal. I mean, really, really hard-shaped. I love this one in terms of where his chest force sits, relation to his flank. A goat that's still really, really good in terms of his look. When we put him in motion, he just wants to fight the halter a little more. He doesn't want to relax as much. We need to see his hind leg just work a bit better, and then he challenges 1 or 2 other ones in the class ahead of him. Painted up goat's bold in his rib shape. He's more moderate in terms of his kind. His back length is shorter, so that actually helps him proportion better than maybe 1 or 2 in front of him. But as we get our hands on him, of the 5, he's the one that we need to dial back to 12 o'clock. He's just a little further gone, and we need to put a little bit more shape in him. A really, really nice set, guys. It's been awesome working with the kids for those that are maybe heading out or leaving. And so very, very nice set. Let's go ahead and give Class 10 a round of applause. They exit, and as we bring those division champions back.
In your placings for Class 10 market goats, in 10th place, we had Briley Berardi. 9th, Jagger Wolf. 8th, we had Hagen Fleming. 7th, Grace Mabry. 6th, Michaela Krenwelge. In 5th, we had Addison Chisal. 4th, Daniel Rabb. 3rd, Brett Bowers. 2nd, Eli Gostwat, and our class winner went to Cannon Downs. We will now judge our Division 5 market goats.
A nice set in our heavyweight division. Very, very nice set because they've stayed youthful and fresh. Not a lot of maturity fight. I know it's still early in January, but at the same time, a lot of county shows you're going to see goats that have probably lost that touch and edge going into major show season. And so let's go ahead and give all 4 individuals once again a big round of applause as we finish our last division, and I'll grab you another champion in reserve.
And your Division 5 Market Goat Champion goes to Cannon Dans, and Reserve to Sydney Geistwhite. We'll give these a few minutes to get ready for our Grand Champion drive, and then we will conclude our goat show with that.
Let's bring those Class 4 champions. We're waiting on you. We're now doing our grand drive for the goat show. Our Division 1 champion is Kinsey Key. Our Division 2 champion is Taylin Toch. Our Division 3 champion is Addison Hahn. Our Division 4 champion, Brittany Bowers. And our Division 5 champion is exhibited by Cannon Dans. Our reserve of Division 1 was Brody Rader. Reserve Division 2 went to Kendall Staling. Division 3 Reserve was Eli Geistwhite. Division 4 Reserve Champion went to Brittany Bowers. And your Division 5 Reserve Champion was Sydney Geistwhite. I'd like to introduce our judge again today while he's picking our champions of the show. Mr. Connor Newsom, he was awarded the 2019 Collegiate Livestock Judging Team Coach of the Year for the nation. He's done us a great job here today, and we appreciate him coming today and bringing his judging team to help out in the ring. Let's give him a big round of applause. He selects our champions today. Your Division 5 Champion Donors Award was presented by Roy and Lisa Sanders, and our Division Reserve Champion was donated by Heather Rohde. In our grand drive out here today, our grand champion buckle sponsor was Fritz & Son Construction.
And your reserve champion award was donated by Fredericksburg FFA Booster Club. And our grand champion goat of the show will also receive a blanket donated by Sanders Show Goats.
Okay, attention meat goat exhibitors, we're coming down to the end of the show. Just letting y'all know that the floor trailer is set up on the cattle side, it's a white gooseneck. We like to try to get those all loaded up by the end of the show if possible. So please, if you have one, please go over there. There are gentlemen over there to help you load and get your information. Thank you.
We're not going to go back through them individually. We'll go back in terms of pairs, but I think the first division, good goats with a bright future. I thought, the difference there with the class or the champion in terms of one just had a little more stretch and maybe just a little more hip today, but a nice pair there. Two, I think that those two goats really pair up together well in terms of type and kind. Our class winner is one that just in terms of his look and his squareness took the advantage. As we get into Division 3, I think two, they're different in their type. Class winner there is very, very unique and very different for the goat world to me in terms of just his kind and his shoulder shape, but a nice pair once again. For a young lady that had both of them, has two different types to take on down the road, a power one to win and a cool built one behind it. And then as we get into Division 5, ones that are there and closer to 12 o'clock, there's no question. Our class winner there, though, is a goat that's just very unique in terms of that type of size and still that type of skeleton and build and youthfulness. And so the one thing is I like to talk about in my drives is I don't have a type. I don't like them the most muscular. I don't like them the best built. I like them to be just the best ones. And so I think it's a combination of traits, and good quality livestock comes in all different sizes and packages. And so if you had trouble maybe following me in a class or two, I think it's the fact that you need to realize that I'm just after the best one and that kind of what's brought to me. And so I'm okay if they're a little stouter in some divisions. I'm okay if they're a little taller and longer and better looking in other divisions. And so one thing I just mentioned about that is there is a couple of different types, but they're all high quality, and I think they're all going to have some future to them and some success on down the road. But more importantly than that, thank you for having me today and allowing me and my team to come and help y'all, but more importantly, work with your young kids. Very, very nice set of kids, very good set of livestock, but very, very enjoyable to work through today. And I hope we've been efficient. Hope everybody feels like they got a fair shot and a fair shake. Let's give them all a round of applause. I'll take a last look, and we'll get your champion in reserve for 2021.
Your grand champion market goat goes to Cannon Dans. And your reserve champion is shown by Brittany Bowers. Congratulations. We'll need all of these goats to go to the backdrop now for pictures, and your grand and reserve champions will be drug tested. I want to remind you, if you want to floor your animal, you need to get it to the white gooseneck on the west end of the barn immediately, and we'll get those loaded up. Thank you.